Okay, so big thing to talk about with this episode is the end of the chapter. We see Spinner reaching out to Kurogiri, begging with his last breath to save Shigaraki before he's basically taken out by pretty much President Mike. Following that, though, we see like Kurogiri breaking free, declaring himself as the protector of Tomura Shigaraki, and I don't believe this for a second. Or more to the point, I don't believe the person in control of that body right now is the villain known as Kurogiri. Like, I genuinely think it's Oboro. I think, like, part of me believes that I think Oboro has broken free once again. Now, at least to some extent. Now, whether this is temporary or permanent, obviously the bigger question, and even weird, is obviously the bigger question. And then the weirder thing is, I have absolutely no basis whatsoever to believe this is the case other than the chapter's cover page and my gut feeling. But just something about how the build-up of this chapter was set up leading to those final two pages makes me think Horikoshi is gonna pull a double fake out on us. I'm not saying that the person we're seeing is or isn't Kurogiri. But I think Horikoshi is going to continue the idea of Kurogiri being in charge of the body for a little bit longer next chapter. But I think that this is going to follow up with Oboro revealing himself to have taken control or still fighting for control. Like, if it's either that or possibly Horikoshi might be toying with the idea of Kurogiri and Oboro becoming one now. But I'm more going with the other theory of this being a bait and switch. Like, again, I don't have any actual facts to support this, but just something about the way that this played out made me think, okay, what we're seeing right now isn't as cut and dry as we think. I don't think Kurogiri has taken, at the very least, I don't think Kurogiri has taken complete control. I think, again, we are looking at a situation where he's like, he's only, like, Oboro is going to take control of that body probably sometime next chapter or within the next couple of chapters for sure. Like, it just feels like this is setting up for, if anything else, I think this feels like it's setting up for one final, like, mental fight between Oboro and Kurogiri for control of the body. Like, I feel that's more than anything what he's doing with this. But more than anything, this just does feel like a setup for Horikoshi to pull a bait and switch in some way. Aside from that, let's talk about how things resolve with the heteromorphs. Because I will admit, I wish we got a little bit more time with that part of the chapter and just let the moments stew a little longer, but the way they turned on the revolution later was still probably the best way to handle this, because on top of carrying over the idea of all it takes is one heroic voice to speak up and say what they really feel and what really needs to be said, that what they know they're doing is wrong, but they're just so angry at the world and desperate that they felt they don't have any other way. Like, I feel the chapter really handled that. Really handled that well. And I also like how this is a moment that in certain respects is saying the quiet part out loud about a lot of radicalized movements, that all it takes is that one figure with a powerful enough voice and message to really get them to believe in something greater, because that message, however good or bad, however negative or positive it can be, it can have this effect of feeding off the desperation of the people, because they will feel like they have no other choice where to go or nothing else that they can believe in, and that was shown here in the way that we were even getting the revolution leaders like inner monologue of saying, he was manipulating them the whole time. He didn't actually care about anything. He was just using them the entire time. Like, it really is. It is kind of showing how these kind of movements can really can I think these kind of movements can be good in certain respects, but they can also they can also serve like the purpose of just being being used for of being used and abused for the purpose of others. Like, it really is kind of, again, I really like how it did kind of show that. And granted, some of it was maybe a little too literal on the nose, but yeah, I do like how it was handled overall. But I also like how Shoji did, and the funny thing is, even though Shoji himself also, even though he did kind of play into this a bit as well, I like that. I think one thing that was definitely different as well in the way Shoji handled this compared to the revolutionary leader is he appealed to them as people, saying you have every right to be frustrated, you have a right to be angry, but don't let that define who you are. Don't let that define who you are. Don't let your anger, your hatred define how society sees you. Like, it's the old trope of not letting anger and hatred consume you, but I feel just by showing it through the lens of the heteromorph society, it weirdly does kind of add that interesting, like, perspective of realism to it almost. As, like, I think, and just in the way it's presented in a way where I think almost anyone can pretty much relate to that particular situation of seeing something like this happen, kind of thing. Now, again, speaking as someone who was never a really big fan of Shoji, even more so one of the people who I admit forgets he existed sometimes, this whole little mini character arc really put Shoji in the spotlight in a way that made him stand out among his peers in Class 1A for me. And more than anything, I do feel Horikoshi has now, like, given Shoji much more of an identity after this chapter, even if it's coming so late in the game, which does make me wonder as well if Horikoshi had grander plans in how he was going to develop Shoji's story, but he ultimately had to toss out and rework a lot of it because of constantly not being able to tell the version of the story he wanted to tell. Although, if it's true he's going to keep the story going a little longer, there might be a little more room to use some of those unused story elements, whether it's Shoji or other characters. But yeah, it should be interesting to see where he takes this. Like, I've definitely like, it's like, I don't know what, honestly at this point I don't know what Horikoshi's plan is, because on some days it feels like he has a much better grasp of how he wants to tell this part of the story. Other days it feels like he's kind of rushing through things. So, like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to keep track of, like, of how he's handling things anymore. Although I think probably that the new editor is trying to help him, like, at least pretty much salvage, salvage any part of the story that he can, I think. But yeah, guys, with that said, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. From on Twitter, Analyst Control. Be sure to notification bell, subscribe button, and just hit the right, guys. Dark Knight, signing off. Later, everyone.